Hello, everyone. I hope you're doing well. I was hoping to see some of you during office hours today, but it kind of dawned on me that perhaps this isn't the most ideal time, and perhaps so as to not have to make a big change, you might not have reached out to me to suggest another time. But I was hoping that some of you might email me and let me know if in fact you have a conflicting class during my office hours, which is Tuesdays, 10:30 to 11:30, and let me know if there's interest in pursuing or in trying to find a better time for everybody. The best way for me to know this is if you just email me and say, "Hey, I'd be interested in discussing a different meeting time." All right, welcome back, everybody. I hope you are making good progress on thinking about what your midterm project will be. I saw some great discussion happening in the discussion post, and I see some consensus being reached. As a final um, as a final discussion post for each of you, please vote as to which approach you like to take. I believe that one of them is stick figures and sports, and the other one is animals and sports. So think about that. There's lots of great assets that you could use for the animal part, and you might find that interesting. But also, the stick figures is fine. Just think about the fact that you have to animate the arms, and that will require some work on that part as well, since we have not talked about rigging yet. So, or unless you want to go investigate on your own, that'd be fine too. But you can definitely do a quick animation just by animating the symbols themselves. All right. Before you start working on your 30-second animation, that will then be kind of stitched together with other students in this class, I wanted to do a quick overview about movies, scenes, and symbols. And let me do a quick edit here because I seem to have misspelled my symbol. My apologies. So that way we can see it and it won't bug me. So movies are the output of Animate. So as you know, you export in Adobe Encoder, and it renders whatever format you tell it to render. And in this case, I've been asking you to create MP4s and also SWFs, which are like animated GIFs. So far, you've been working in one scene, and when we work in an HTML format and standard resolution, we are actually not able to work with scenes. We have one dedicated scene. But this week, I will show you how you can expand from that if you want to. You will all need to work in the same format, however, so I'll walk through that with you as well. And it's really the character animation standard resolution. We will also differentiate between symbols, which are graphic symbols, and also movie symbols. This will help you to progress in your midterm animation. Before we go on to showing you how to work with scenes and nest symbols and symbol movies within these scenes, I'd like to tell you about the advantages and disadvantages of using scenes. Now, I want to go on record that these are not my words. I've consolidated what I found on the Adobe reference site. So this is not my work. This is Adobe reference material. I have summarized in some sections, however. To organize a document thematically would be one of the advantages of using scenes. So scenes are individual timelines that are separated, and they actually start one after the other in sequence. So you might want to use scenes if you have a reason to organize your document thematically. So in this case, we're using, we're collaborating. All the students are collaborating on creating a midterm project. So you will each create a scene. And that's how we are bringing all this together. Maybe you have an introduction, a loading message, and credits. And these are things that you reuse for other projects that you work on. So that might be a reason to separate things into scenes. I think of this as like sequences in separate sequences in Adobe Premiere that may play one after the other. Maybe you have a lengthy animation and using scenes avoids having to manage a large number of files for each of the scenes. So you might want to pursue that as well. One of the great things about working with scenes is when you do have scenes, the frame numbers are organized for you. So let's say that in scene 1 you have frames 1 through 10, but when you create a second scene, they continue on 11 and 20. So that's a really nice part of this. So you'll have unique frames per scene. The scenes in the document play back in the order that they are listed in the scene panel. And when the playhead reaches the final frame of a scene, the playhead progresses to the next scene. So these are all advantages to working with scenes. There are some disadvantages as well. When you publish a SWF file, which is the Adobe Animate format, the timeline of each scene combines into a single timeline in the format. So you'll end up with one large scene. After the SWF file compiles, it behaves as if you created the project using only one scene. So it will consolidate it for you. Some disadvantages for using scenes are as follows. It might be difficult to manage for multi-author environments. Because each of you are creating your own scene, I don't foresee this being a problem. But let's say that you were each editing other people's scenes, then it could get a little bit difficult to manage. I provide here some options. We don't really have to think about this loading external content or using movie clips because that is the purpose of working in this way, is using scenes. But this is an alternative to avoiding some of these disadvantages. Sometimes scenes result in large files because there's organizational structure behind it. Using scenes encourages you to place more content in a single FLA file as well. So keep that in mind. And so make sure you curate and you really think about what you're putting in the scene. Scenes force users to progressively download the entire SWF file. And by downloading, it means that sometimes when you play it, it requires a download. So maybe you don't want to watch all of it, and keeping everything in one scene might be a better way to approach this. If you avoid scenes, users can control what content they download as they progress through your SWF file. Also, there might be some problems when these scenes are combined with ActionScript, and you might have some unexpected results. So these are some things to keep in mind as you progress with Adobe Animate and create your own projects. All right, so let's continue on and learn about how we differentiate between different content that we place on the scene. And I'll take you through how to access the scene menu and where to find your scenes. First of all, the only way to see this scene menu is to use character animation as your template. You can use any of these resolutions, but for now we are selecting standard character animation. Okay, and our frame rate will be 24. Go ahead and create. Please make sure that all of your resolutions match this, because otherwise you'll have to go back and re-render everything. So your resolution should be standard, and then please don't come and edit this. So all of our animations match. 640 times 480. So then go ahead and create. All right, for the scene that we are working with today, I am going to add a few different layers here. So this is our background. I'm just going to say stage. And for my stage, I'm going to use a nice light purple color. Okay. And then I will add a horizon. Now, I don't know, some of you might have discovered this before, but there's an interesting gradient that is really great for a horizon. So I'm just going to fill this entire area with my horizon. And the other thing, let me backtrack a little bit. The other thing I'm going to do is disable stroke. Do you see that? I'm not using strokes for this. So let's fill in our horizon. And if you click on the fill and then the color, you'll see that down here there are a few different options that you can choose. And this is kind of a natural horizon. So if you fill this and then run your line up and down, you're still using the fill tool, you can, and shift to keep it level, you have a nice horizon. I'm actually going to try to keep this a little bit further down like so. Okay, now let's go ahead and lock this. By the way, this won't be an assignment that's due, like going through this is not an assignment. This is just to help you succeed in creating your animation. All right, so what I'd like to show you now is how we can incorporate symbols, specifically movie symbols, in our animation, and how you can play them. Let's go out to 72 here for 3 seconds and insert a keyframe so we have the horizon all the way through. Okay, in layer 3 I'm going to create a building, or let's just say, yeah, for now let's just call it a building. Go ahead and go to that symbol there. I want to differentiate for you symbols and just regular objects that we have on the scene. Okay. So within this scene, as you can see up here, our scene is listed. Okay. In just a bit, after this particular section, I will show you how to create a new scene. But to access the scene menu, you need to select Window and then go almost all the way down to your workspace menu, and you'll see Scenes here. You can click on it and the scene menu will be enabled here. Okay, and I'm just going to add it to this section here. Well, it didn't let me because it doesn't like it there. So you can enable and disable it whenever you want. Okay, so it'll place it where you placed it before. Okay, I've locked my horizon, locked my background. Now what we're going to do is I want to create a building. And I still have that fill from before, and I don't particularly want that. So let's go ahead and click here. And I have this gradient from before. I don't think I pulled it up. Let's see. Just going to use this radial gradient, okay, to get a building. And right now, this is just an object here, right? It's a single object, and you can click Q and move it around and do whatever you like with it, right? And there's no stroke to this, and it is in the first frame of the building layer. Now I want to go create some windows. So for these windows, I'm actually going to use a different gradient to fill in. I'm going to use this green gradient to fill in the window. Okay. And to make things easier, I am just going to resize this a little bit. And then make several templates. Now, several copies. So you can select, and while holding down Alt, this is still a little bit small, so I'm just going to put it back to where it was. While holding down the Alt key, you can drag, Alt, drag, Alt click, drag, and it will place the windows on there. And then you can select these and make some other copies using the Alt key as well. Okay, so for now, I'm just going to keep this number and move the windows into my building. I kind of like to skew it to the left a little bit. All right, so now we have a building and 9 windows. Okay, if I were to go here and insert a keyframe, that building would just, be stationary, right? There's no animation going on right here. But let's say I want to do something with this building. So make sure you are on the frame for the layer you're working on. Let's go in here and select all of these. And then go here and let's just say insert shape tween. Okay, insert shape tween. Insert shape tween. Now remember, these are not symbols yet. So let's just see what happens. Okay, these are not symbols yet. So what happens if I have these symbols here? I select Q and I just want to shift these and maybe move the building down this way. Okay, let's see what happens. All sorts of weirdness happens. Weirdness can be good. If you want this type of behavior for your building, then you should go for it. Okay, totally fine. But let's say I really just want my building to dance in the way that I had originally said. So I'm going to go here, select all of this, and let's do a building 2 layer. No spaces are allowed there. Building 2 layer, and I'm going to copy that same building here. And for now, I'm just going to hide that layer. Okay, now let's move this building here. Insert a keyframe here. Now if I insert classic tween, what it's going to say is, hey, in order to do a classic tween here, you have to convert this to a symbol. And you can say, yes, let's do that. Let's convert it to a symbol because that's really the kind of animation that I want. So then you can move this here. And maybe you want your building to dance. And then we could go into here and maybe make it dance a little bit more as it's moving along. Insert another keyframe. And I don't know if you see what I'm doing, but I'm just hovering over the stroke or the edge of the object, which is now a symbol because we converted it. I'm hovering over it and it gives me this skew tool. So you're able to slant it and tilt it to the left or to the right. I'm not sure if that's the official name of it, but that is what it allows you to do. But make sure you insert a keyframe in order to do that, okay? Now let's see what it does. So now it keeps the windows in the same position that you originally placed them, but it's a different effect. Okay, if you want this effect, where everything is kind of chaotic, then you should not create a symbol from those separate objects. It can render some interesting results, unexpected results. So I would play with this and see, does this work for my project? It's great for adding noise in the background or some interesting background movement. I'm going to show you another example of something like that that is interesting and adds some movement. So let's just add, go to your first keyframe. Let's add a square, and then in here select O, and I'm going to insert some circles, just some white circles inside, different things here, okay. And insert your keyframe here. Now think about, like, if we do a shape tween here, and we move this guy over here, sorry, I had to move them first before I did that. Okay, here. So in this case, it's keeping everything inside, right? But the reason it's doing that is because it is grouped. Whoops. It is grouped together. So let's go here. So if we are to group it together and keep it, then we end up with some really peculiar things going on here. In this case, it stayed in there, but if I move it to appear somewhere, and maybe I change the size to that, very strange behavior happening there. Okay, so there's some interesting things you could do with that if you're interested in doing that. All right, I'm going to go ahead and hide all of these because I want to keep working on some other, demonstrate some other things here. If I create another building like the one I just made, so let's go ahead and do that real quick. Go back to, click R, so you can go back to rectangle. And I have a white building here, and what I want to do really is I want to create a different gradient for myself here. Okay, so I have this one. I'm going to add it to my swatches, and now I can go here and I have this purple thing. Wait, did it actually get added? Yeah, here. Okay, so here's my gradient, and remember, you can mess with it and do different things with it, but I kind of like to go across. Do that again. So you can go across and make a more subtle gradient like that, okay? And then we'll add some more windows. I'm going to do yellow this time. And before I do anything, let's just change the size of this. Before I do anything, I want you to consider something. Right now, this is just a rectangle, right? It's a rectangle with a gradient fill. But what if I wanted to add windows that were dancing inside the building? What if I wanted to do that? Well, you could add 9 different timelines and have each of those windows animate individually and also move across the screen with your building. But that would be very time consuming. If you want very specific motion or animation for each window, then you might have to do that. But maybe there's a way of having the same effect without this laborious effort. So let's try this. If we have our building here and we want to add some windows, instead, and we want to add some animated windows, let's go ahead and insert a new symbol. And let's call it dancing window. Okay, so now we have this stage, and it inherits the color of the stage that you had before. So I'm going to add one window here, and I want a radial fill. And I'm going to change the colors here a little bit. So if we do this, then it's kind of interesting, right? I think. So I'm going to add another yellow here. Okay, and see how that works. I like that. So it looks more like what I'm looking for. So I'm going to add that to my swatches so that it's available whenever I want to. Okay, so there's my radial. And now I can go back here to my timeline and then maybe go to, like, I don't know, 60. It doesn't have to be exactly the same, but okay, let's just keep it even. Let's insert a keyframe. And I'm going to create a classic tween. And it's going to tell me, wait a minute, you have to convert this to a symbol for a tween. And we can do that. So let's go ahead and do that. Come to the section here and move it here. Insert keyframe there. So just insert keyframe wherever you kind of want. I'm just kind of randomly selecting sections here. Okay, so now we have this dancing window. And as you can see up here, it's no longer a graphic, it's a movie. So because we added some animation to this, it became a movie. We could also just insert a new symbol and create a movie clip like this. So I'm going to call it Dancing Window 2 and have kind of the same result. So I'm going to copy this here, go to Dancing Window 2. And we have the same effect. Okay, it really doesn't matter. It just depends on how you want to handle it. So make sure you're on the keyframe. And same thing, you can animate the window. Maybe jump up and down. But every time you insert the keyframe, the transform is enabled so you can modify it. Now let's say that with this keyframe, I also want to make it jump up and then maybe have it come down. Maybe not so much because it's going to be in the building. So maybe just a subtle movement. So let's see what this looks like. That's the way our window's moving. Now this has become a symbol, a movie symbol. And so is this one. It was just created in different ways, but it's still a movie. So let's go back, because we're nested right now. We're looking at the dancing windows symbol. Let's go back to our scene. Now let's add these windows here. Now they're going to come up as kind of big, and all we have to do is resize them. And we can add these windows here, and then select them, add. All right. So I'm actually going to move my building a little bit to the left to get those centered. And I just realized, you know what, I don't like that they all start skewed to the left. So I'm going to go back here to my, and just use the transform tool to put them back to center. And now we have this dancing motion. Okay, go back to our scene. And now I bet what you think is, well, I could just play this and it should play my animating windows. Well, it won't play, because when you place movie symbols within a scene, you can't preview it on the timeline while you're working on it. You can only preview it by going to Control and Test Movie in Animate. Okay, Test Movie, Animate. Now it will, well, it will also show you everything else that I hid. But as you can see, these windows that we added are animated. Okay. So you need to do that in Adobe Animate to test it out. What if I also wanted to animate the building? Yeah, you can do that as well. So let's go ahead and add a keyframe here. And create classic tween. And it is going to ask you to convert it to a symbol for a tween. And we can do that. Now let's move the building. No, not there. Sorry. Let's go here. Move the building here. And just going to do that animation and maybe add a keyframe here where it's shaking here. And then, well, we can see that the building is being animated because we added that to the timeline. But to test the window animation as well, we need to go to Test Movie and Animate. The browser preview is no longer supported unless you have Adobe Flash, which hasn't been supported in a while. So just trust me, you want to test the scene and animate. Okay, so it shows all the other stuff in the background too. And that's how you get your animated windows within an object that's in the timeline. Okay? I hope that this has helped to differentiate between regular symbols and movie symbols. Now let's do something else. Let's say, well, I'd like to split these off into separate animations. So let's go to Insert Scene. Well, first, I'm going to copy what I'm looking at here. me remember what, oh, that's the cube animation. Okay, so let's say in the next scene, I want to have many of these. So we will insert a scene, and maybe I want a different horizon. So let's add a different horizon to this. Maybe my purple one is better. So we'll add the purple horizon. So maybe a bit of a night scene. And now I want to add this building here, but in a separate layer, okay? And maybe I want several of them. So I'll call this building 2, call this building 3, okay? So here's my second one here. This is my first one, and in building 3, I've got this building, and I'm going to move it to the center. Now let's go ahead and change the shape of these. Maybe I want this to be a skinnier building off to this side. And before we do anything, let's add our keyframes so we know like when our whole sequence kind of ends. Okay. All right, great. So for building 1, I think what I'd like to do is animate him toward the center. So we'll do a classic tween. And all we're doing is moving him this way and maybe making him a little skinnier. And let's see how that looks. Okay, maybe I'd like to make it a little bit jittery. Here, like so, and maybe change the size slightly. And here as well. All right, so we have this other animation where he's moving back. And for this taller building in the center, I'm just going to move it up and down is all I'm going to do. So we'll create a classic tween here. Sorry, that's the wrong one. This one. So we'll create a classic tween and select the keyframe and then move him up. Maybe here I will add another keyframe, moving him down, and this one moving up. Okay. So now we have 2 different animations of those buildings doing this. Okay. And for the third one, which really they're not in the right order here, I'm going to do something maybe a little bit more drastic. Insert classic motion swing. Maybe we make him almost disappear behind the other one as the final, as the middle of the tween. So insert keyframe. Let's put him back here where he kind of goes like this, and then maybe starts to get bigger and widens, narrows again, and then goes back to being. So now let's see, those are 3 different animations there. Okay, so then you have the second scene. Now, when you go to Control, Test Movie, and Animate, you have two scenes. So it's playing the second one. All right. So let's take this one step further. Let's try and convert this to a movie symbol. So go ahead and just, what we'll do is we will say modify, where is my convert? Control, modify. Okay, we have to select all of, oops, don't do that. Let me lock that. You'll select all of those symbols. Make sure that you have all of them. Oh, I have that locked. That's why I was locking the wrong thing. Okay, we have all our symbols selected. And what is selected is what will be converted to a symbol. Okay, we're converting it to a symbol. And I'm going to call it Many Buildings Dancing. Okay, we converted it to a movie clip. And now we have something called Many Building Dancing. Okay, let's go ahead and add another scene. And add our mini. So what happened is when we go look at this, it's just sitting there as three objects, right? Because we converted it to a symbol, but we haven't animated yet. So we have to go into this newly created movie symbol and we can do something with it. So I don't want to go and copy all those other layers from the previous one. So I'm just going to leave the stage as it is and insert, just make it a shorter one, insert keyframe here and copy each one of these to a different layer. Okay, so I'll copy this one here, insert a keyframe, and so I've got that one here, and then this last building, copy to this. Okay, and now we have, so now we have the three buildings. Let's work on the first one first. Okay, so this building is starting here. And we can eliminate the other two from this layer. Only have this guy. We have a keyframe here, so let's insert a classic tween and move him this way. And then for the next one, we just visualize where the placement of the other ones. This one is going to be here. And also insert classic tween. And what I'm going to do with him is just tilt to the left a little bit. I'll just tilt it. So let's see how those two look interacting. Okay, and then the third one, I'll start there. And zoom closer to each of these buildings. Let's see how that's looking. It's a little bit far, so I'm trying to make them like this. Okay. So now we have this, animated building. So remember, we are inside the movie symbol right now. So let's exit this move. First, let's save our project. Okay. Animating with scenes and symbols. Let's go back to our scene, the previous scene. And instead of having these objects here, now we can drop the many buildings dancing. And here we're not going to see it play back, remember, because it's a symbol. So if we go to Control Test Scene, it will show you that for those clips, it is looping the symbol, the movie symbol. For those scenes, it is looping the movie symbol. What would happen if we added, if we added many of these in different shapes? So now we can transform them. We can add like this city of symbols, and you can go into transform and flip vertically or horizontally. And then also resize them so you can have little ones, big ones. I'm just going to duplicate this one and maybe transform horizontal. So now, again, if you play here, you're not going to see anything because you can't play a symbol, a movie symbol on the timeline where you're working. You have to go to Test, Control, Test Scene. And then you will see all of these things. Oh, you know what? Hold on. I only placed these things at the beginning. I didn't place them at the end. So go here, copy. That's there. And then so you see what I did, right? I only copied those into the last keyframe. So I'm trying to figure out which ones are not copied yet. Maybe these two in the front. Yeah. Now what can be interesting is let's see what happens if we do a motion tween here or a classic tween. Oh, it's going to ask me to convert it. Let's not do that. Let's test it first and see what happens. So Control, Test Scene. Now we have a ton of these buildings moving throughout this timeline. And it's playing for 3 seconds and all this movement is happening. All right, great. So if I were to go in here and create a motion tween, it would ask me to convert it to a symbol, but we don't want to do that because it's already a symbol. The other thing to keep in mind is that you cannot nest a symbol inside a symbol because then it would get really complicated and keeping track of all those layers would be tricky. All right, I hope this clarifies a little bit how to work with scenes, movie symbols, and graphic symbols as well. remember that if you add a movie symbol to a scene, you have to test it by going to Control, Test Movie or Test Scene. Now let's go ahead and test the whole movie. What does that look like right now? We have 3 scenes. So you can see that by working with these animated objects, meaning symbols and specifically movie symbols, you can really get a lot accomplished as far as creating a really vibrant and robust background animation. Please email me if you have any questions. I hope that this is helpful to you. And if you have any questions regarding scenes, sequences, scenes, movie symbols, or movie graphics, let me know, and I am here to help you. Have a great rest of your day. I can't wait to see what you create for your midterm project. Have a great spring break as well, but I'll be checking in on Friday. All right, take care. Bye.